through South Africa and listening to the experiences of Africans and how so many of them were tortured or had family members murdered or were imprisoned or forcibly moved from their homes and relocated to desert areas. Just a never-ending, really, he said, because they didn't, they couldn't continue because it was just, there were so many, but just this ongoing stories of what happens when we forget love. And he said sometimes he felt such great sorrow and grief, but never forgot the power of love and forgiveness as redemptive and cleansing of bitterness and defensiveness and closed hearts. And in the group that we just had this afternoon, we talked about our struggles. Some of us talked about our struggles. Each one of us here, I'm sure, has a story to share, as so many was shared in the process of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We all have stories of what happened when we were children or at school or in churches when there wasn't love. And the wounding that comes from that. Sometimes that wounding is so deep and profound, we call it traumatizing. That there is a place in our fabric that gets torn. And in that tearing, there are two options and possibilities for us as human beings. And one is to defend ourselves against that tearing by moving to hold on to opinions and ideologies that are inspired by hatred, because hatred is a kind of a defense against that wounding. And we are living in a culture right now where our leader is defending himself, George Bush, against his own wounding by using hatred and fear in that defense and projecting it out into the world. I don't for 1 minute think that he doesn't feel scared. I'm sure he does feel scared, and he's scared because when we turn away from that tearing in our own fabric, then it's even more scary than facing it, because that tear keeps being projected out. So we have heard that there are almost 1 million Iraqis who have been injured or killed in the war so far. And that is the power of a mind that has chosen to turn away from the places where there is hurt, when there has been a tear. And then there is a power that is even greater than that, and that is the power of love. And this is what the Buddha says to the bhikkhunis and bhikkhus. Whatever kinds of worldly merit there are, all are not worth 1/16th part of the heart deliverance of loving kindness. In shining and beaming and radiance, the heart deliverance of loving kindness far excels them. Just as whatever light there is of stars, all are not worth 1/16th part of the moons in shining and beaming and radiance. The moon's light far excels it. And just as in the last month of the rains in the autumn, when the heavens are clear, the sun, as it climbs the heavens, drives all darkness from the sky with its shining and beaming and radiance. Such is the power of loving kindness. So the power of loving kindness is a power that is greater than fear and hatred, because loving kindness can heal fear and hatred, but fear and hatred cannot heal. And that is the power of love. And so I call the ancestors and those who were in the struggle in South Africa and who died that I know, I call upon them both because those that remembered love, and also especially because how my parents taught me also, because they forgot love and what happens when you forget love. And that gift to me of forgetting has meant I've come to the Dharma, and I've been called, as you've been called, to take part in the great healing, because apartheid is the name for one part of the world that needs healing. We know that there are parts that actually the whole world needs healing, and there's just different descriptions for that. And we now are in a new movement. We used to, some of us call ourselves in England, CNDs, anti-nuclear power, and then anti-uranium mining dumping in native people's lands, and then feminists and queer movements and environmental movements. These are all names for the different places that perhaps some of us have participated in. And there's one that holds all of these, and that is the movement to end the cycle of forgetting and turning away. The movement that calls us to become fearless in taking up that placard for love, so that in the old days and still today, we go out on the street sometimes with a placard saying, you know, out of Iraq. This placard is a placard that we hold inside of ourselves, and we hold it all the time, and it is, I take a stand for love. I take a stand for love. No matter what the conditions, no matter what's going on, we have this capacity to love. One of my great heroes is Victor Jara in Chile when there was the junta took power, and everyone was pushed into the stadium in Santiago. There were army all around, and people were really in distress. And I don't know if you know, Victor Jara is this beautiful singer, liberationist singer, and he started to sing, to sort of like a loving kindness meditation, you know, to say it out loud. He started to sing, and as he sang, it sort of helped to settle the energy in the stadium, and the soldiers were outraged by that love and that courage, and they said to him, if you don't stop singing, we're going to cut off your hands, because he was strumming his guitar, and he didn't stop singing. He was holding that placard for love, and so they cut off his hands. And then as he continued to sing, they said, if you don't stop singing, we're going to kill you. And he didn't stop singing. And it reminds me again of what Mandela said and Robert Sobukwe said, which is that at a point, love is more important than my life. And when the Buddha was middle-aged and had become very popular, his cousin Devadatta, who had been quite jealous of him and who also had a very, very powerful concentration practice. And for those of you who don't know, when you have a very powerful